has.
Oh.
I wish there was a date on those.
That's just a
Year.
I'll switch Steve on the radio. I'm right here.
Go ahead. You're here first.
One good thing and two not so
Oh,
good things.
good.
The good thing, just kind of, we do this periodically and go over and I authorize this through you guys first, but occasionally we'll go over and pick up a transfer for one of the other adjoining counties, and we did do that the other day, and it was a work comp case, so it was a great deal, so it's almost 100% guaranteed pay, so around $750 for that transfer. So we occasionally do that, and when we can with staffing, and when we make sure that they have insurance. So that's the good news. A couple vehicle issues are the bad news. The pumper, which is, we just have the one for the county, and that truck from the moment I arrived has been leaking water from the pump, and it's gotten to a point now where it's bad enough. We need to do something. You pretty much have a lake in the station, unless you wouldn't carry water in it, and that's the whole point of having a pumper. It's having water.
We've made the repair once ourselves as well. And,
So it's the pump on the tank?
yeah, it's underneath. It's from engine, transmission, and then it kind of stubs off into like a PTO pump, and then, but it's that seal in there where that pump mounts, and it's a pretty minor little seal, but it's what keeps all the water back. And we've replaced it once, but you've got to do it just right on that particular seal. And well, it worked for a month, and then it started leaking every bit as bad again. So without having the equipment to really remove more of the stuff and get at it, it's just, we put another seal in and it might last another month. Weiss Fire can do the work, and they actually have a mobile technician who would come down and do it here instead of us having to road the thing anywhere. And even their labor for out of shop cost is like $10, I think he said, more than in cost. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to drive it up there. But worst case scenario is what he gave me, and that would be if he had to remove everything out from underneath this thing. And then he would go ahead and replace that seal, check to make sure the pump is, nothing's been bent, everything's okay on the pump. He would do a pump test, and then a back test on the truck too to make sure there's no other leaks. That totals $4,300, or actually $4,367.05. That's worst case scenario.
For $10 seal.
Pretty much, yeah. And most of that is actually in labor. But that's, he says most of the time he can get away with not completely removing that particular style pump. And but there's no telling what the, how many hours would be cut off not having to remove the whole thing. But he did say that he never wants to give you a quote that he'll ever go over. So he said this would be if he had to just remove everything and rebuild it all. So, but yeah, we probably lose a good 100 gallons of water just within a couple days with that thing leaking. I mean, it looks like you've got a sprinkler on underneath that truck whenever you. It used to be you had to pump it, and then you'd come back and it would leak. Now you just drive it and it comes back leaking.
Is there something special about this that a local mechanic can't do?
Yeah, I don't know that I would feel comfortable having anybody that hasn't worked on the fire truck and this particular pump. That's my thing, is that I don't want to have to come back and ever fix it again.
That's what we kind of did once, and that was with just one of our own folks.
Well,
you said you repaired it yourselves.
Yeah, Marshall, Jason Dove, And I think Troy Fisher helped him. I can't remember for sure, it's been a little while back now.
But these are competent mechanics,
Yeah.
is what you're telling me. And it didn't work, and you,
It worked for about a month until it started leaking about the same or even a little worse now. And it really is that, mostly that seal is the problem. And it's the way that seal has to go in there. I didn't actually get under there to help with the seal in, so I don't know for sure, but just talking to this gentleman on the phone, and then talking to Jason Dove before we got started on it the first time, they both were saying the same thing. You know, there's a couple different seals anyways, you know, a square seal, and it's basically just like packing material. But depending upon the style of pump is how you have to actually get it rolled in there, or if you actually have to take it loose and press it in there.
so what you're saying is it wasn't installed properly, and that's why you think that it's...
I think so, yeah. It was installed to the best that they could have.
I understand, I'm not being critical, but
Right.
what I'm trying to decide here is whether there's actually a problem in the pump that's causing the seal to go out.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who puts it in, eventually it's gonna go out.
And that's what he will check on us, check for us as well, is like the in play on that pump. Make sure the shaft hasn't been worn, there's no bushings in there that are starting to wear through. That you're right, it don't matter how many pump or how many seals you put in the pump.
How much does a pump cost?
Oh. This particular pump, we're probably, I know we can get a small pump like our brush trucks. If you went to just buy the pump, sometimes those things can be about $2 grand. And this is a pretty large PTO pump. This one on this truck is 1,000 or 1,200 GPM midship pump, midship PTO pump. And they don't want to list prices on the internet or able to just give you one because there's so many different options as far as the extras for them.
For $4,000, it looks to me like you'd be awful close to a new pump.
What is the pump itself or is it seal?
It's the seal.
It's a seal, but the pump's all right.
Well, that's what.
Well, they don't really know
That's
that.
what I'm saying, but is it sealed in the pump
Concern.
It's
itself?
pumping fine, but the seal is actually on the end of the pump where it mounts. And that's where it's coming loose at. And I wish I could explain it any better, but I haven't really got underneath there to look at how this thing is actually getting from like transmission to pump to tank and everything.
A new truck like that truck right off the assembly line, probably over $200,000.
We're not talking about a new truck.
No, but the pump's a big part of that truck. I mean,
Well,
when it's new.
Is this one, you don't take this off-road, this is just supply and pumper, is that right?
This is our roll engine. I mean, this is.
So it'd be a structure, it'd be a structure part
I mean, it's not
piece of
one that
equipment.
goes across the fields and stuff like that.
That's mainly why we'd go towards a fire repair outfit versus just anybody, because, I mean, at least, you know, when they break into it, they're gonna know what they're doing. They're gonna know whether it was that seal or whether it's something else, and we're not just, we're not spending $2,000 and not fixing the problem whatsoever.
that's what I'm concerned about. If you're having this problem repeatedly, there's other issues besides just the seal.
Yeah, we wouldn't go farther if it came up that
But it looks
We have a
like
bushing in the
checking
pump
into
going
a
out.
new pump at this point wouldn't be a bad point.
We can certainly check into that, but I'm almost certain.
You're sure it's gonna cost more than $4,000?
I'm pretty certain.
Yeah,
I think Wise would have recommended that route if, you know, if we was looking at something of that, you know, that was pretty close.
If you go on to like
It doesn't
Hale
pass.
and Waterous, you can kind of see what these midship pumps look like, and I'm betting there's $10,000 to $15,000 easy.
I see.
And just
Sure.
how big and how much is involved.
Then you have
It's-
you have all the labor, the
Putting
cost
one
of
in,
that,
right.
of taking the other one out, and putting it in, so.
Okay.
But we'll certainly ask that question. And we can hold off till next week and get some more of that information.
It'll be November, he thought, to early December before they could get to this. So we've got time to,
There's nobody else that does this?
I'm sure you can find some other fire equipment folks, but
Yeah.
we're gonna be
as far as,
for the distance.
yeah, as far as who's closest to us and who specifically works on fire engines, this would be about the one quote. Besides having somebody come from Nebraska, I know they're a company up in Nebraska, but we guess that there's somebody up around Kansas City, but
Used to be somebody in Hayes, but I don't think that they're
I haven't seen
Any longer
anybody from
in business.
Hayes area.
But we'll do a little bit more research and, but at least you kind of know where we're at with it. That we're looking at it and it's not getting any better, so
Not gonna fix itself.
it's not gonna.
So this pump is specific for firefighting?
Specific for actually structure firefighting, for mostly for hooking up to a hydrant, so supply, to have a great supply. But yeah.
And even to get a little bit deeper into that, as far as, strategically, what trucks do we need? We've thought about it, whether this would be the right truck even, for our purposes, and I think we could maybe visit about that a little bit more in depth, whether we could go some other directions. But the bottom line is this truck isn't worth anything if we was to sell it and go another route if we don't fix this. So the value of it, we've got to fix it if we want it to be even worth anything to resell it. There are some alternative routes we could go that we could maybe look at as far as.
This is specifically for structure fires.
Yeah, and
And
we
we're
need something.
limited on that.
This is the only structure fire truck that is for outside of the cities.
We pull up, and then we have to bring in water, of course. Because it isn't gonna last long with what it's
None of
carrying.
What it carries.
None of our other trucks would be able to supply enough water to actually even defend or attack a structure fire. You're just gonna, if you don't have this truck anywhere close, you're just gonna watch it burn to the ground.
And you really shouldn't even be sending anybody inside without the capacity of what this truck has versus what those have. They're not designed to provide firefighters with enough water to really safely enter into a home or a building to fight it structurally.
So this truck is one of the parts of getting an ISO rating.
It
If
is.
we had,
Presently, we don't
Yeah,
have,
we don't
have enough resources
It's
to.
difficult for a county to get an
yeah,
ISO rating, but this would be one that we would have to have if we wanted to improve ISO ratings.
right.
Not only this truck, but some better tenders. I mean, that's where you get your ISO in the
Right.
county.
This truck could do it, but right now we don't have the water resources because you have to demonstrate for a certain period of time that you can maintain water flow, which, quite frankly, is an antiquated method of evaluation at this point in history, because you could do some different things with compressed air foam systems where you don't have to have as much water, but the industry just is stuck in dinosaur age, and that's the way they define it, that you still have to flow a gargantuan amount of water for a certain amount of time before they'll give you a rating that reduces your insurance. I think they'll change that eventually, but not yet.
Well, we gotta get her fixed.
Yeah, and I think, just for comparison, see what a new pump would cost.
Okay, we'll do that before and then we'll come back next week and ask for approval. That way, that way we have some other questions.
And then,
Because there's no hurry. I mean, it's
it's just mopping up the water.
yeah, that's all. That's all.
I would be nervous that if we didn't fix it, then it would eventually take out that bushing and shell the pump.
And it looks a little silly for us administratively to finish the year out and not take care of a major problem with one of our trucks that we have budgeted funds to do so with, so.
Well, that's, you have funds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's plenty in that line item for this.
Okay.
We
So what's
hate
the
to
other
have
good, what's
we
the
hate
other
to have
good
to do
news
it,
you
but
have?
we
Even
do.
better.
It's an ambulance. It's
It is even better.
our second newest ambulance, and it was one of Ford.
It's a Ford, it's 2005 Ford.
One of Ford's better, not so good ideas, and problematic.
It's a 6-liter diesel. You have a 6-liter diesel? You had, right? Yes. The 6-liter diesel has some issues. It boils down to the antifreeze, the EGR cooler, and the oil cooler. Once that, the antifreeze is silica-based, so it heats up, it gets sludgy. That in turn starts to clog up the small fins in the EGR cooler and then the oil cooler. Once that happens, it's a high-pressure oil system for the injectors. It's pushing out like 4,000 PSI to those injectors. Once that EGR cooler starts getting clogged, what it's doing is it's taking air straight off of the turbo. So it's taking 1,500-degree air off the turbo, pumping it back into the intake. Well, if you pump 1,500 degrees back in the intake, you're asking for big problems. So they cool it down with this EGR cooler. Once that starts to clog, well, you're not cooling it down anymore. You'll eventually start blowing head gaskets with that particular problem. With the oil cooler, that in turn also starts to clog because it's got that same radiator type fin to it. The oil heats up. You can get a failure on your oil pump, but it starts to, it will blow injectors, and it will, the fuel injection control module. It will cause that fuel injection control module to fail. So we've already had these things happen to this particular ambulance. We've already blown injectors. We've had a turbo hose blow. We've had all the signs that our pressures in that pump and that EGR cooler are going bad. I hadn't looked into it that closely before. I had just taken it to the Ford dealer and said, please fix this thing because we have to have a working ambulance. And so they did. They replaced the fuel injection control module actually twice. 2 or 3 of the injectors, I can't remember which, they were under warranty at that time, but 2 of them were. So they only replaced the 2 bad ones. We had to come back because another one went bad, so we had to replace all of them because it had come out of warranty on those. So we did get all those injectors. But at that time, we thought it was just a bad injector design. Turns out it's a underlying problem is the problem. I've done a lot of reading and a lot of looking around on this 6-liter problem, and it's all the same. With the 100,000 miles, you may be replacing that EGR cooler 3 times. Just depends on how much you're driving and how hot you're getting it. But everything I've read is that it's the exact same problem each time. And just, it's a very minor issue as far as just clogging. That's all it is. But it leads to some pretty nasty repairs. For one, it's like 8 hours plus just to get to the EGR cooler, if you want to replace one. So,
We've had problems ever since.
this is out of warranty.
We've had problems ever since we bought this thing.
This is sitting at 65,000, I think.
But there was a 100,000 warranty.
Not on these parts of the engine. The emission stuff, it takes it to 100. And
Really?
it's been about a year since I talked to the Ford dealer on it. It was either 50 or 60 is where most of this stuff ended. And I think it was 60 because we ticked over 60,000 when those last injectors failed on us. And that's why we had to pay for those. So. And it may be because this is like a commercial vehicle of sorts. You know, it's an emergency vehicle that you don't get that extended warranty with it. But I do know that we haven't had any problem with the emissions stuff, which I know most of the emissions stuff on any vehicle will get you to 100,000 miles, being the catalytic converters and things like that. But both actually Marmy's and Lanterman's, the two closest to us anyways, have both had this ambulance in their shop. And this one, I printed off, I wish I had brought it up this morning, I printed it off and we're sitting at just over $4,000 in repairs in the last 2 years on this particular ambulance. All centered around the EGR cooler and oil cooler problem.
So what kind of prompted it is we were having some recent issues with it, and so I just sidelined it until we could get it all figured out. And we don't want to drive it and end up causing more
Huge
damage to the thing. So it's been sidelined since it started having some additional problems. And we have enough ambulances that we don't have to pull it into action, but it's our second newest ambulance, so.
But haven't we had problems since we bought it, more or less, this particular one? I've seen you like that.
This particular
Day one, you've had to have back and forth to shop, just.
And until within the last year, I've just been thinking, okay, we need to get this issue fixed. We need to get this issue fixed. I haven't really looked into it this closely as I have even within the last 6 months. And the more I read, it's all down to that one or two little pieces. And everything that we've had fixed, minus say some tires, it all stems back from that problem. I've talked around to a couple, well, actually this Weiss company, they will start doing ambulances after the first of the year. They're getting a new mechanic hired up there. And he says they have fixed these same problems on two of theirs, their shop truck, or their service truck, the one that they would actually come down and fix the fire truck with. They've done this repair on that truck, and then an ambulance that they use for, it's like a demo model, but it's a demo model they don't ever get rid of. It's kind of how I gathered from them.
Can they fix it permanently? I mean, or is it just a temporary fix again, or they got?
There's options.
They can fix it or it don't happen.
You replace it with a Ford factory part, same design, it's just not clogged, and then that lasts you however long. You can go to an upgraded aftermarket version, which I've looked into that, which is a different design, but it's the same EGR cooler, or you can do a delete kit. The state of Kansas does not have emissions laws that are so strict yet that we couldn't do that. But that deletes that EGR cooler altogether. It blocks off. You still have to get down to where it was, so you still have the hours, but you never have an EGR cooler that will go bad on you again. And then there's the oil cooler is down there in the same particular place. You can go, Ford has redesigned theirs ever so slightly. In about 05 to 06, they've gone to a redesign, so they knew they had issues. So there again, you could get a Ford factory part, which would actually be their version of an upgrade. Or you can go with another aftermarket one. You can't get rid of that part. But another big thing that a lot of people are saying is to put coolant, actually antifreeze coolant filters on them. And that way you're catching all this junk that's running through the engine. So I think no matter what we do, an antifreeze filter is probably #1 on the list, just so we don't have any future or any further, or if we fix this thing, we won't have those similar problems again.
We're not quite ready to give you a quote. We've got some quotes, but we want to do a little bit more research on that, but I just wanted to go ahead and give you the second bit of bad news instead of... Might as well get it
You're
all
not
on.
talking about buying a new
on
ambulance.
all at once.
No.
But this is our second newest, so I would hate to see our second best ambulance be our biggest pile.
But you are telling us there's things that probably can fix this, or at least go a long way towards actually fixing it.
Yeah, and the problem is there's a lot of things that we could do to it. So we're trying to sort through, what parts do we buy, or do we do the EGR delete, and what's the least expensive but the best choice. They really would like to see this ambulance be one of our best ambulances. This being that it's the second newest, but when this ambulance was bought, it was purchased at about the bare bones minimum. It doesn't have an inverter in it, so when you're driving down the road, you're not powering your inside, the monitor and things like that, and it feels like you're riding a brick, especially in Wichita. Feels like somebody shoved steel rods up in the shocks. So I think it's nice enough,
That'll be
though.
the one I get.
Yeah. But we really want to make sure this ambulance.
Well, you gotta have it run, you can't have it break down.
Number one
Down the road.
thing, right, number one
That's-
thing, we have to know that it'll make it to Wichita.
Right,
Right.
that's absolutely right.
Are these the models that some of them caught on fire? Or was that another Ford?
Most of the Ford things that caught on fire were due to their cruise control modules.
I think them
and
were
most
some of their
gas-
gasoline.
Oh, the
Gasoline motors probably in the mid to late 90s, once they changed to that square body, and actually even up into the early 2000s, I think.
One thing that kind of prompted this is, prompted the problem was, we moved the ambulance, we moved the newest one. I wanted to get through some of the warranty period times on some of the parts to that ambulance, but then, and I'll visit with you about this, that proper, fleet maintenance is to utilize the old ones, and because typically the EMTs would like to drive the new ones when you get them, but that's not good fleet management. And so we put the new one over in Maxville, and it won't run much. But so that brought this one back onto the front line, and actually we have one that's on the front line now that doesn't have a lot more miles than what that one does, and it's the oldest one in the fleet.
It's almost
But
10 years
we just
older.
didn't, in the past, we just haven't used good fleet management as far as, they kind of took ownership of thinking that, well, this is our ambulance for this town. That's not a good way to manage the fleet, because you end up,
Costs more.
yeah, well, St. John would always run the most miles. And so if you get a new one, you're gonna wear it out much faster than what you would if you put one over at Maxville and even Stafford. So, right now, we're running the oldest one in the fleet, but it doesn't have that many miles on it. We're running it here, and we may even do that for a bit after we get this one fixed. Make sure that the fix works first.
I've been behind the wheel when this thing decides it doesn't want to go anymore. I mean, it's like 45 miles an hour at best. And thank goodness we were coming back when we weren't taking the patient to the hospital. But it very easily could have happened between the patient's house and the hospital, and then there was just, we wouldn't
So
have found anybody, we
it's-
just called for another ambulance, but.
It's another issue. We really don't have a choice,
Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
you can put a water filter on and solve these problems?
Not 100%, but that coolant filter will do quite a bit towards solving the issue. Because what the coolant filter does, it's not a direct inline filter, it only filters a slight bit at a time. It's put in parallel with the coolant system, so as your coolant's traveling its normal route, a little bit is being bypassed. So you're not filtering every drop at the same time, you're just taking a sample. And so after driving it however many 100 miles, you probably then filtered the entire coolant system.
But that's what clogs this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the oil filter, what was the issue with it?
Well, it's the oil cooler.
I mean, the oil
And
cooler.
it's the same thing. If you look at a cutaway of both the EGR cooler and the oil cooler, it's very similar to the inside of a radiator. It just has a bunch of little triangular shaped and rectangular shaped holes in it. And so in the in the oil cooler, the rectangular passages is the oil, and the triangular is the antifreeze. And so the antifreeze is cooling that oil. Well, once that antifreeze starts to clog up all those holes, the oil.
Oh, the antifreeze is causing the problem in the oil cooler as well.
Yeah.
And the oil cooler then causes the problems in the injectors.
Yeah, once the oil cooler starts having problems, then that particular engine has a high pressure, I can't remember the acronym, but it's a high pressure oil system that feeds your injectors. Once you start either having your pump fail or pressures increase, that's when we were blowing injectors, is that it was heating up and causing the pressures to increase. But if you starve the injectors, it's just bad that you got injectors that are going crap and won't work.
So ballpark price estimate, Nick?
One of the quotes that I got, and this was to put an aftermarket EGR cooler and an aftermarket oil cooler and the antifreeze filter. I think that was the three main parts. It was about $5,000. It's anywhere between 8 and 16 hours. I think it's 8 hours on a pickup, so I think it's getting closer to 16 hours on an ambulance because of that. It's the van style, and you just don't have the room. Everything you need to get to is right underneath the cowling, so I think it was the 16-hour range, getting closer to that. So most of it, again, most of it's in labor.
So we're gonna check with a few different places.
You can't just
Yeah.
add the filter on and to what you've got existing.
We've already had problems is the thing, and we haven't fixed the EGR cooler yet. So I think we'll still have EGR cooler and oil cooler problems. You know, it may not get so bad,
Yeah, it might
but,
go on. Yeah,
but we've already had the problems, and then just after we moved it back to Maxville, 2 of our techs had gone, I think, to Hutch for the patient and back, and about Stafford coming back, they noticed it again. It started kind of missing a little bit, didn't quite seem right, and so that's just when we put it back. We said, no, we're not gonna let this thing start blowing injectors again,
Okay.
so.
So that's the two. I did think of one other good thing here before we leave. The homeland means we have South Central group. Each area in Kansas has a group that is called the Homeland Grant Group, and typically what they purchase with these things is trailers and the highly technical response equipment. Well, I try to attend when I can, and mostly it's just to kind of keep an eye and see where we fit into the equation at. And you know, I listen to some of them say, well, there isn't any small community show up, and you know, I remind them that you know we have plenty of meetings to go to that, and it doesn't appear like there's a lot of things that we would necessarily would be right for us to even request. But they had $64,000 that they got turned back in that was supposed to be for some highfalutin project, and so I got to thinking that communications is something that the small communities, in my personal opinion, should be fit in. Now, there was someone that disagreed with me that it wasn't for that, it was the high-tech stuff, and I said, well, how in the world are we going to communicate with you with all this high-tech stuff if we should need it? And so I convinced them that that wasn't indeed a worthwhile expenditure for these funds, and so the county, it kind of makes sense. Our ambulances have 800 radios, but our sheriff's officers do not. And so that's what I did, is I proposed to buy 4 800 mobile radios, and then in the same breath, and we wasn't going to spend the $64,000, but I got with Pratt and got with Pawnee in Martin County, and we're going to utilize all $64,000 for county mobile 800 radios for all those counties. So, and it gives us a backup. Our radio system is by far not perfect, but it does. I think we could even apply for a frequency under that 800 radio, and see, then we'd be utilizing the state's towers and everything, and we wouldn't have the expense of the upkeep of those. So in the future, it might be something that they could utilize, maybe even a lot more. So, that's it. Thank you.
The truck, and we got the truck cleaned up, ready to,
Yeah, where
To
are we
go
at
on
on
sealed
getting rid of
bid.
these pickups?
Oh,
and-
yeah, what about that one there? We got the pump off that thing.
Yeah,
Is it ready to go?
We're trying to figure out what, I don't really want to get rid of the tires. They are really nice tires on that particular truck. Everybody that can swap tires for me is been pretty busy lately. So I'm trying to wait on Marshall or someone that can come and swap those tires around. And the last time Marshall looked at it, he actually kind of got nervous that maybe those tires wouldn't work on the truck we wanted to work on. Right offhand, I can't remember, they're like 920 tires on that thing right now. They're almost
good tires.
They're almost perfect, and I would hate to not replace some of the bad tires we've got on a couple trucks, particularly one in Maxville that would work on just perfect. So I just need to get somebody that can swap out those tires for me. Otherwise, we're gonna have to just let the tires go with it. So
Well,
it's ready to that
if we
point.
can't get Marshall to do it, we just need to get somebody else.
Yeah. But it's ready for that point. I just
Okay.
need to get the tire switched.
And we have an old junky looking semi that's, I don't know if you've seen it sitting out there, it looks pretty atrocious, and
Where'd that come from?
it was stolen is what I heard. It was a piece of stolen property, and the reason it's sitting right there is it wouldn't fit through the gate into the impound yard. But they,
Beautiful looking.
I see it now.
it's
Some type of wreck out there, it looked like it is.
too bad we couldn't have just pushed it into a culvert.
Well, let's see if we can get somebody to switch those out, and then we gotta get them advertised. Because we got this generator we need to get
Do
rid
you
of.
want,
And the pickup too, right? Is the pickup ready to sell? Let it pick up?
the Dodge?
Yes.
We've sidelined that for the moment, trying to get this other truck and the new 5-ton finished up. So that hadn't been priority, I guess, on the list.
But you got,
Look, we're moving along real slow on the big truck. You know, the guys are doing that work, and which is nice to do that, but it's not going very fast.
We didn't want to have too many things down. Well, we can't necessarily have that truck, all the trucks down. But as soon
so
as
you're still
this-
utilizing this pickup?
We are, yes.
But our,
Crossing our fingers
refresh my
every time.
memory, but my intention was to sell that, correct?
That's correct.
And you were gonna, just tell me again what the plan was with that truck?
Well, we talked a couple different things. If there was a purpose for it, then, you know, if the guys up north had a purpose for it, besides, the problem with that truck is that, with everything that we put on it,
Transmission.
well, everything that we put on it is just, you know, all them computerized systems, I think what's happening is it senses all that weight that's been thrown on it, it just doesn't compute.
When that thing's loaded full of water, the engine's pulling 120% of its engine capacity. It is
Yeah,
like,
I understand all that. I just want to
Right.
know what the plan was to replace it. I remember what your difficulty was. We were gonna just strip it and sell it, right? And not replace
The
it?
5-ton will take its place, basically.
I see.
It'll be the next truck for it. We just need to get that 5-ton done quickly. And
Oh, so
It's not
that's
going
part of
quickly.
the equation too.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody want to paint?
It's too windy.
Yeah,
Too many.
You got the paint gun and everything to utilize and all that?
Yeah, I've got a set of paint guns that I plan on painting my pickup with, but it looks like it's gonna paint a 5-ton first.
Well, I've got a couple of them if you need them.
Okay.
And the 2-stage compressor.
Lisa, what have you got? Good news. Thank you.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Okay.
I'm playing catch up on my quarterly reports. So you're getting 3 at once.
Yeah.
Can I give Shane your copies?
Sure.
Yeah. I didn't make him
Well, I
copies.
got, I get 3.
I submit quarterly reports, just kind of our cash balances, so you can just, if we have questions.
So didn't we get first and second already? No.
Have
You're
you guys
that far
missed those?
behind?
Have you guys missed them?
I thought we got it.
It's too depressing.
So anyway, I'll just let you look through those. It's pretty, our balances are pretty much the same. We haven't had much CD activity, very little interest activity. That's that one graph. I show you what we have earned in interest so far this year compared to the other years. I actually, just kind of slipped my mind. I guess I got,
These are all for 12.
yeah, first quarter, second quarter, and third
Okay.
quarter of 2012.
I wouldn't find much difference in interest rate next couple, 3 years since they decided to freeze it for 3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah. I sure wish we could go back to that year, 2007. And you know, that's what, a meal is like around 80,000, isn't it? So, you know, that's like almost 5 meals. Yeah, when you can earn interest, it really does help the county to earn interest. But yeah, we're just not gonna be there for a while yet, so. Okay, and then, I'm supposed to do a yearly settlement with you guys on my abstract, my October 1st settlement. You don't want this?
I'll need to have a copy
You
of
can
it.
have this. Did you get a copy?
Yeah, you gave one.
Oh, that's for Kurt. Okay. This is the tax abstract as of October 1st. As you can see, our original tax roll is $12,379,000 in the left-hand column. And then clear in the right-hand column is our outstanding taxes for the 2011 tax roll only. And so that's 1.1 delinquency rate. So, you know, we really do a good job on, you know, the delinquency rate. They say anything 3%.
So I was gonna ask you, how does this compare statewide or?
Well, the auditors has always said 3% is pretty much, so anything under that is really good. So we've got good taxpayers in the county.
Either that or a mean collector.
Well, we do stay on top of it, and that is one thing we do. We go back and we look at our overdue, and we send correspondence. I mean, so I attribute that a lot to follow-up.
Sure.
It does take time to do that, but yeah. And then we also have those little tricks on personal property. You can't renew your tags, so that kind of helps.
Gives them a little more incentive.
That helps a little bit too
Really?
sometimes.
Does everybody do that? Or is that your trick?
No, that's statewide. So. But it's just on personal property tax.
Steve's already gone. It's been a little off the subject, but how's this, maybe you don't even know, how's this, the ambulance collection?
I haven't even looked at any reports lately. If you want me to, I can look at some reports.
We haven't had any information for a long time. I'd like to know where they're at.
I could put some figures together.
I should have asked Steve, but I didn't think about it until you brought this up.
And I haven't really noticed how it's been coming in.
Aren't they working with the hospital now?
I don't think we decided
The
that.
auditors are getting together, the county auditors and the hospital auditors.
Did we
Well,
actually make a
this
formal
mentioned the fact that
decision?
it was gone.
They were gonna
We talked
research
about
it.
it. That's kind of why I'm bringing this up. I would like to know where we're at.
And somehow to determine it wouldn't be revenue on the hospital side. So,
Jeez.
well, you know, the world of
The
accounting.
accounting side is gonna be a mess.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
I could
that's
see
what,
that being an issue.
the last time I
But
asked.
surely it
was
can be done.
KV,
BKE, isn't it?
B somebody, and then,
Or BKD?
yeah, and then our auditors were gonna get together and determine. But I, you know, that, want just a separate line item and not include that as income, you know, on the county side, but it'd be on the hospital side, but it would be on the county side, so
They didn't ask you.
they didn't ask me.
A simple thing.
Auditors together are like lawyers together. It's like pigs wrestling in the union.
So,
Well, and remember, they're not gonna know how some things work
On
on
the
our
government
level
side.
too.
I understand.
So they
It's-
need to go over things with Nita and I also, so we understand how the workflow would
And
go.
you haven't heard anything.
No.
Put that on my to-do. So real estate is the one that's the most outstanding, dollar-wise, correct? RL?
Yep.
And
But it's the
And
highest
oil.
original tax too. Well,
then
yeah.
oil is next.
Mhm. Yep, you're right. It's gas, intangible, oil, personal property, real estate,
What's,
SA, special assessments,
No, it's state assessed.
state assessed, yeah.
SP
SP is special assessments, and
Oh, dear.
TK
Oop.
is trucks,
truck?
heavy trucks, 16, 20 trucks. Anything that's tagged with 16 or 20,000 pounds, that's what TK is. Otherwise, heavier trucks are in the PP under personal property.
All right.
Remember that.
What's IN? Interest?
Intangible.
No, intangibles, which we don't have anymore, correct?
Oh,
Yeah,
we still
very
have
little.
intangible.
Very little, we still have
There's a
some.
few townships and Hudson City still does intangible.
And I get calls every year, what is this
Yeah.
tax?
You would think that they would get that on the ballot.
That's what we
Why
tell
did you
them.
tax us?
Yeah, it's
No,
gotta be
because
voted off.
You sent the form to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course. Okay.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
Well, it's non-enforceable tax, so
Absolutely.
it's just another, it's a line item that could be eliminated.
See, here we go.
It should be eliminated.
It should be.
It's
an unfair tax.
Yeah. Yeah,
It all started back in 1958, when they could have opted out, and there were 6 townships and 2 cities that didn't. And now
Well,
there's,
one of them Stafford.
and one of them is Stafford.
But Stafford finally opted out.
Before my time.
So now I've got,
I knew it was coming.
I think it's Hudson, Albano.
No wonder we can't have harmony.
yeah, somebody just needs to take the initiative to get it on the ballot, and that's all it would take.
Right, and you only need about 4 signatures.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't,
then
Then
people
it's the
have
cost
to.
of printing the ballot.
No,
No,
because it can go on with, like this ballot we're doing now, but
it's too late.
you've got to get the people in your township to understand what they're voting, yes
Right.
or no for.
I understand.
Because typically, if somebody doesn't know what they're voting on, they're going to say no.
and then like the deal with Stafford, people thought it would immediately go off, but it was like,
It's the next
it's the next year.
Right.
So when we sent tax statements out for that year, they didn't understand, oh, well, we voted that out. Well, it won't really take effect until next year.
It's not income tax year.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, they finally got off Stafford.
Well, that's, you know, one of the confusing things about taxes that, you know, we're not dealing with this year,
Right.
it's last year's and next year's and so on.
Did we ever hear any more back from that oil company? Is that
No.
resolved? Is that
No, I think
resolved?
Joe pretty much got that all taken care of. Because Joe and Carl spoke, and Joe understood what Carl was talking about, and then Joe talked with their
The last time up
attorneys.
there, he said, didn't he say that, well, last time we talked about it, was up there, he said that they had decided they, you know,
And
That they,
Yeah, they paid it.
yeah. So
But
they-
But
they
they
understood.
where he's
weren't
at, so it
gonna
was
pursue.
all square, I think
Yeah.
he said they decided.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's resolved
I thought it
unless,
was, but
unless they decide to come back and challenge Joe, so.
they haven't been harassing you lately.
No, they have not been in touch with me, so I think it's done, but you never know.
Good for Carl for standing up.
Yeah. Well, and it's just an education process. I mean, it's hard to follow.
It's not really that hard.
Well, you gotta
Especially if
think
you're an
about it a little
attorney
bit.
and you're supposed to know those kind of things.
Well, it's like some things, you gotta, everybody has their specialized areas too. You understand this more than
Oh, but
this.
Lisa, everybody knows you pay last year's taxes this year. It's
No.
You come to work in my office.
No, come get some phone calls.
Okay,
From
now
attorneys
let me ask you
that are
this question.
gonna sue you because.
Where, in this upcoming tax sale,
Mhm.
they have up until the day of the sale to redeem their property.
from what I understand so far, I do not think Joe's put any stipulations on it. Now, that's really, an attorney decision.
That's been in the past.
That's what
But
he
it's
said.
it's
He said
cash,
it was
cash in hand or a cashier's check, correct?
Yes.
Right.
All right.
Not a personal check.
Right.
All right. Say that they, okay, so, it was one time was mentioned that the 2012 taxes would have to be put into some form of escrow.
No.
Where did this come from?
I don't know, who said that?
It was mentioned in all this conversation we had
I
about,
don't think
No,
we
he said
have.
they'd be responsible for
Since
2012.
2012.
You have to
is
announce at the
everything.
sale that they're gonna be responsible, like they're not on there yet.
I thought Joe said in the meeting 2 weeks ago that it would have to be, if they were buying their property back, the 2012 taxes would have to be in escrow. If they're redeeming their
Oh,
own
if they were
property.
redeeming.
Oh.
if
Now, if
they're
somebody
Oh,
was
redeeming.
redeeming their own,
If I was
okay.
in
Okay.
buying property, then I wouldn't have to.
Okay.
But where they're delinquent.
So you're right on
they
that
would
then.
have to.
Okay.
I thought that's what he said too, but I.
I guess I don't, so what?
so
It'd
if
be
the
like-
property owner would,
Chances that happen.
I mean, we have taxes dating back to '04, correct? '04, '05,
Mhm.
so if it's the
And they
property.
can't come in and buy their old property back and just let it go delinquent and then buy it at the auction, can they?
No.
No.
Yeah, you did say that.
Or
That
or
could
no
save them a lot of
relative.
money.
No, they can't bid on property over tax, they have to pay all in full.
I wish Joe was here, but I think he'll be here later. Do you remember, can people call ahead of time and make bids?
No,
I don't think so.
no, it is a live bid auction on the steps of the courthouse. There is no pre-bid, there's no sealed bids, it is a live auction on the steps of the
But
courthouse.
it's just like a regular sheriff's sale, isn't it? I mean, isn't it billed as a sheriff's sale?
And you issued a sheriff's-
Do you- So you got your auctioneer voice formed up? Let's
Yeah.
give us a little, you know,
Oh, I'll announce it right off the bat, I'm not an auctioneer.
He's a bid facilitator.
That's right.
That's why we experience Saturday.
What time is the sale on the 20th?
2.
2. Sometimes, I mean, I have had
2 o'clock?
cases where an attorney
That's what it said in the paper.
won't even let them redeem on that day.
Usually
I
10
haven't
o'clock.
got any
It's usually 10
paperwork
o'clock in
yet.
the morning, that's why I was gonna
If you got
struggle.
10 people that come in wanting to redeem,
Then
you,
that's
that was
it.
too much
You haven't got
chaos,
anything?
so.
All right,
I
so
think
what
Joe's
about?
I got the original, just that shows the, what's
So what about the
selling, but
levies?
it doesn't say anything about
It's
the
up
time.
to the city
I just read it in the
to
paper.
forgive those.
Mhm. That's the way I understand it.
And he set it up on my deer vacation.
And that pertains to 12 as well?
so this
Okay.
auction won't take very long.
Can't you delegate
None
it?
none of this tax stuff will affect
I don't think you
2012
Before
specials or
4 o'clock,
taxes.
yes, we done.
That's right.
So the advantage would be that the cities
You don't have to
buy
get
these
your
properties.
You can put that
Oh,
on
you
to
gotta
protect
leave
their
her.
lien.
Well,
You're not hunting deer
You're
at
not
2 in the
near
afternoon.
don't you?
we're going about 3 by then, 3, 3:30.
So it'll be a
So you're
quick
gonna
auction.
bid
That's
to buy
what
and
he
then
just
to buy
said.
back.
Well, no him hawing around, you
Maybe the fastest auction in history.
Do you have any other questions you'd like for me to clarify?
And there's 48 parcels today.
Yeah. We've had some calls on some, so I think there's gonna be some redeemed, but, which there always is. But, yeah, nothing's been redeemed for a long time, so we're still the same.
It's too early yet.
Oh, yeah, why would they do it now?
Yeah, we'll wait till the last minute.
All right.
But some people just don't do it until the last day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, they really, that's
Yeah,
been,
they really
usually
just
about
wait.
half
It's
of
a
them
game.
disappear about the last day.
Yeah, it's a game.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Come on up,
My
Jeff.
turn?
Yeah.
I just have 2 recommendations for salary increases. One of them's Cassie Blakesley and Tom Fisher.
These annual,
And yeah, they're came due in September. That's their anniversary date. I'm recommending that Cassie go from range 4 to step 4, or, yeah, from 4-4 to 4-5. And Tom from range 8, step 6 to range 8, step 7.
Effective.
Do what?
Effective.
Well, it'll be effective 10.
Yeah, what you say.
Yeah, both of them's anniversary date was in September.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make the motion. You wanna do these separate? Or you wanna do them together? All right. Step increase for Cassie Blakesley from step 4, or range 4, step 4 to range 4, step 5. And Thomas Fisher from range 8, step 6 to range 8, step 7.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendations for salary increases for Casey Blakesley and Thomas Fisher. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Motion carried.
So you'll have this auction in the courthouse, in the courtroom?
Yeah, and I haven't seen or heard out of the Polish traders. They usually come out for these. But I
They got some delinquency, that.
So they probably won't be here.
Yeah, that's got the one.
And I haven't heard, have the cities said whether they're gonna wipe out some of their money?
I have no idea. We haven't made anything officially.
I know in past years, sometimes people won't buy it because it's just too much.
Oh, absolutely. $4,000
It's worse
against it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can to make them aware of that. So those written letters,
Yeah.
it's not our decision, unfortunately.
This is what he sent out to the various cities.
Uh-oh.
Then old man glasses out.
So you wear those when you're deer hunting too?
No, I can see far away. It's up
That
close
is, the
that I
scope
get
is
problems.
magnified.
A big scope about that long.
One of those sailor things.
Now, do you use strictly, legal weapons when you're deer hunting? You don't have
Yeah.
anything special down there in the cabinet that?
No, I still use a bow that just has a string, no sights, nothing.
Really?
We don't, can't afford to buy them expensive ones.
That's
Keep
right.
losing them all, huh?
That's right.
You don't have any tripwires out there?
Well, hope not.
How many had stolen, two?
Do what?
How many had stolen, two of them? I said you can't afford to buy the expensive ones, they steal them.
Steal that?
The bows.
Oh.
No, you got
That one year,
You had your bow stolen?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Did you report it?
yeah. It was in Pratt.
Who do you call?
Pratt. That's where it was.
That's pretty bad, Jeff.
It wasn't good.
But it was in a different county, so it
That
wasn't
very
good.
well.
Well, that's good.
I'd only had it about 3 days.
Wow.
Went to a bow shooting Pratt, stopped at the Love store, went inside, come back out, went back to the bow range,
It was.
bow was on the back of the pickup.
Must have blown out.
No, I don't think
No
so.
kidding.
Well, it was a big, there were people from Oklahoma and it was a big shoot. It was a whole weekend deal, so.
So somebody there knew what it was and what it was worth.
That's what I do, is play in the Okies.
That's what I'm doing.
There you go.
I can't
And
wouldn't
we
do
got
that.
this on camera.
Yeah.
You lost 2 of them? Okay. The first one I could kind of understand.
Well, the second one's basically the same thing. It was stolen from the bow range. See, they have shoots every Sunday. see all but 3 months out of the year. I haven't been back for years.
I wonder why. Yeah.
But there's a bunch of people there and same deal. You know,
Those are pretty close together, remember, right? I think,
Mhm.
wasn't too many things, or?
Yeah, it was 2 boats in a row.
That's right, back, that's.
Yeah, I quit going down there. It just took me twice to learn.
Yeah, well, I probably only went 3 times.
Yeah. Wasn't good. Okay, well, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
That's too bad you're a bow hunter. I could get you to go up to Colorado with me weekend after next rifle hunting. I'm going with a bunch of the deputies from the Denver County
Already
Department.
got anything?
No, at the moment,
Let's recess from
Yeah,
there.
I don't know the rifle, so.
What do you got?
The Johnson Music quote
I guess we'll have to do an amendment to the original.
is the final amount with the taxes removed.
That's,
So we'll have to do an amended motion, or? We made the motion 2
Approve
weeks
it,
ago
right.
that it was approved, but then there was the issue about labor and taxes. They charge the sales tax. So this is an amended proposal
Right.
to Johnson Music Center for $4,604 for the sound system in the annex.
the second.
What was about $600 different, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not even that, is it?
You made that motion.
The first
I
one
made
was
the motion.
4,000 and
It's, okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the amended contract from
4,000.
Johnson Music for $4,604. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
When have they got to start? Did they give you any idea? What's it?
Yeah, what else did you?
I don't know, Nita's been talking to him to get this thing resolved. So we just sign this and fax it back to him?
Yeah, you can.
So I'll just sign it there and then we'll just fax it. Because then I have to order the parts.
Now, what else you got? Beer license?
I have a renewal for the golf course for their beer license. It's not up till December 31st.
Are there any issues?
I approve, I motion to approve the renewal for the Stafford County Golf Association for their renewal of beer license for 1 year.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, we accept the renewal for the cereal malt beverage license for the golf course. All in favor say porta potty.
You have to sign that, isn't it?
I don't know if that motion carried or not. I
Did it
didn't-
carry?
One moved, one second, that's surely we're not gonna change our mind now, are we?
I didn't hear the vote.
Aye.
No, you got to sign more than that.
All right, motion carried. There you go.
Okay, and
That's
Sunflower
it?
Diversified, yeah, sent a request for a letter of support for their transportation grant with KDOT. So
This is a grant they're applying for.
they do it every year,
We just encourage them,
yes.
people, okay. Is there a letter?
That's their letter, yeah.
You guys want to read this? Do we have to act on this? This is just our information.
Man. 3,200 rides a year?
That's a lot, I didn't know they did that much.
I'll make a motion that we go, sign this letter of support for Kansas Diversified Services KDOT grant application.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded, we endorse this letter of recommendation for Sunflower Diversified Services KDOT grant application. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. That's it. That's,
All I have.
okay. Well, let's recess if you want to go find the man. We're done.
You're done.
Okay. Let's adjourn.